changes that have been made since President Michael Crow came in 2002. But first, let me thank Ann for the invitation to give you the update. Ann has been a wonderful and generous supporter of Arizona State University. She has been supporting the ASU Center for Religion and Conflict and her work towards peace. She retired from ASU in 1990. Is that right, Ann? She received numerous awards and recognition on behalf of pursuing peace, and ASU thanks you for your continued interest and support, Ann. A little bit about myself, just so you have some context of where I'm coming from and all this. My name is Stu Hadley. I've been working in higher education now for 31 years. Married to my wife Allison for 36 years. We have 4 kids, 3 are married, 4 grandkids. This is more and more important, as you guys know. The older I move in, the grandkids and things. That's pretty cool. My oldest daughter, she ended up getting a BA at ASU and her master's also in social work at ASU. My son, second child, went to the U.S. Air Force Academy, and he's an Air Force C-17 pilot. My next daughter, she graduated also from ASU and is teaching second grade in Ridgecrest, California. That's like the epicenter of all those recent earthquakes in California. So she's had kind of an exciting time over there. My youngest daughter is also at ASU. She's a junior. She's quite a bit younger than my others. And she's in Barrett Honors College at ASU. So I came to ASU in 2000 after working at Iowa State for about 12 years. And prior to that, I worked in the Iowa House of Representatives as a policy analyst. And what is kind of fun about that is that the person that hired me at Iowa State University was none other than Michael Crow, who's currently the president at ASU. Small world, isn't it? It's just amazing. And he was just as high energy and as much of a change agent back then as he is now. In fact, his philosophy and worldview has not changed one iota. He's very consistent. And if you think about it, if you're familiar with land-grant institutions and how land-grant universities were started, he is basically, in a very broad way, very land-grant oriented. But my job interview with Michael Crow at that time at Iowa State was at 11 o'clock at night. And so I came home from work from the Iowa House of Representatives, told my wife about this job interview, and she just rolled her eyes and said, "You're nuts." And so I set my alarm clock to go off at 10, so I got up and got dressed again and went in for this interview with this guy. And the interview lasted from 11 at night to about 1 in the morning. And the place was hopping at that hour. A lot of grad students working, a lot of stuff going on. The interview was in a lab with beakers and Bunsen burners and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I came home and woke up the next day and decided to take that job with this guy. And of course, my wife thought I was nuts, but it was a huge blessing in getting to know and working for him. So my relationship, though, with ASU now goes back a lot of years, 19 years working there, and with my kids attending Arizona State University, 3 of the 4. That was another 12 years of experience as a parent having a child at ASU. So I guess I technically could say I have like 31 years of experience with Arizona State University. Let me see if I can advance our slides here. Before I start gushing about President Michael Crow, though, there are a lot of people at ASU that work extremely hard. For example, my immediate boss, his name is Jim O'Brien. He's the chief of staff at Arizona State University, and he is also a senior vice president. But I want to mention this because you guys know from your life experiences, when things are advancing, when things are moving hard, there are a lot of people involved with implementing. And the people at ASU have been, it's just an amazing group of people, and some of them I caught up with a little bit here this morning, people like Jerry Schneider and others that spent many years at ASU. But Jim O'Brien is one of those that has kind of been at the hip, joined at the hip with President Crow for years. And he's the one that's basically in charge of trying to implement everything that President Crow comes up with, which is a lot. Every single day there are new adventures to be had at ASU. Michael Crow, this is a picture of President Crow. He's the 16th president. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on him, probably a whole lot more than you would get if he was speaking with you today, but I think it's kind of important to get a feel for a little bit about his background, what his worldview is, what is his, where does he come from, what drives him, that kind of thing. So I'm going to spend probably a little bit of time on President Crow. He's the 16th president at ASU. He has been at ASU since 2002. So at this point, he's been at ASU for about 17 years. When he first came to ASU, most thought, maybe he'll be here 5-6 years or whatever. The norm right now for a president is about 6.5 years before they move on. So 17 years is a long time. And just to give you some context, U of A since this time has had 5 different presidents since President Crow has been here. Great institution, U of A, but they're pretty much more the norm than we are or have been under President Crow's leadership. He has an unbelievable ability to rapidly synthesize information and to be able to communicate that information in lay terms. He's brilliant in that way. He is one of those that also comes up with new ideas, and not only how to position them strategically, but also how to implement them. When he was at Iowa State, he ran a series of research centers, like 12. And he is also, though, not only in charge of this umbrella of research centers, he was also in charge of the federal relations. So he would come up with initiatives, and he was also given the authority and discretion to implement them through our congressional interactions and interactions with the Hill. He was born in San Diego. His dad was enlisted Navy. His family moved 21 times when he was growing up, and he attended 17 different schools. So it's amazing to me how he did not lose his way through all that lack of stability. The personal drive is worthy of note. He was the first in his family to go to college. He went to Iowa State, and then he got his doctorate at Syracuse in public administration. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. He just turned 64 years old. And in fact, unfortunately, it's fun. His birthday party is over the noon hour today, so after I leave here, I'll have to join that one. But thank you for the invitation and for joining you all here. People that worked for President Crow, and those that, they just seem to be very loyal, and they work very, very hard for him. And the reason for that is because for some reason people are very loyal, and they see him working extremely hard himself. And when that's occurring, everybody wants to do the same, to do their best they possibly can. When he left Iowa State, when he was working at Iowa State and left, he ended up leaving Iowa State and became the head of the research operation at Columbia University, a very good institution. But when he left Iowa, literally the state mourned for a period of a couple of weeks. No kidding. I worked for him then. There were headlines in the Des Moines Register saying things like, university presidents are easier to replace than Michael Crow, because we had a new president coming in, and he decided that it was time to leave and move on to Columbia. But there was a big outcry when he left because his impact on the state was amazing, and he's having that same kind of impact here. His core beliefs haven't changed since those 1980s, like I mentioned. He's very oriented toward broad-based student success. He teaches a class even now at ASU and on science and technology policy, and he rarely misses a class that he teaches. He co-teaches it with someone else, but he actually rarely misses. No matter where he is at in the world, he gets up, time zone changes, and they video conference in, and he teaches, which is quite a thrill for a lot of our students. Oops. Okay, so here's a trivia question that I want to see if any of you guys know this. This is a quote from someone regarding critics, as it said. It's not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. Anybody know who that quote is from? Oh, who said that first? Oh. All right. You, sir, win an autographed copy of a book that was written by President Crow.
I already have one.
Oh, give it to the guy that was second. Who came in second? Feel free to pass it around. Anyway, so that is a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, and somebody who President Crow greatly admires. He is President Crow's favorite. Again, I'm giving you the context on this because so you kind of get a little bit of an idea of where this guy's coming from and the impact he has had at ASU and where he's moving it, because for people that know him, it's no surprise in what he's doing. And so if we understand our leadership, then you kind of, none of this is a jolt. President Crow's favorite president. He has this quote on his table at home, and he knows that it's not about winning or losing; it's about the battle. Roosevelt didn't talk about stuff; he did it. Roosevelt was an amazing president. I didn't know this until I kind of dug into this stuff. But he served as a police commissioner in New York. He was part of the New York General Assembly. He, of course, was a Rough Rider in the Spanish-American War. He was the governor of New York. He was the vice president and then also the president. He was always ready to serve, and he was also committed to sustainability, conservation, equality, and the projection of democracy. This is the type of person that Crow admires greatly. Okay, this is key, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time, and this is also in that little document that I put on some of the tables. This is our charter. We're going to look a little bit under the hood at ASU and see what the philosophy is now regarding this institution. This is important stuff to get a feel for where we're headed and what we have been doing. ASU is a comprehensive public research university. A lot of universities out there, not all of them are research-related universities. There's kind of a difference between your non-research and your research. But we fall in the research university. This research university, we measure not by whom it excludes, but by whom it includes and how they succeed, advancing research and discovery of public value, and assuming fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of the community that we serve. So this is our charter, and this charter was rolled out and approved by the Board of Regents back in 2014. It's been, to understand the intellectual underpinnings of this charter, like I mentioned before, just allows you to get a better handle on ASU. This charter has given our institution common purpose and mission. So again, ASU wants inclusion and quality. Now those two things, many would argue, you can't do at the same time. You can't have a wide group of people that can get into your institution and maintain high quality. And this is kind of the underpinnings of what we are trying to do and are making great progress at approving. So we're stepping into this. The opposite of this would be, and I have nothing against our elite universities. They're very needed. They have a niche, but it's not real difficult to imagine a successful institution if you only allow in the top 1%. Bragging rights to us is not, we excluded or we only took 5% of enrollment applicants. Okay, to us, that's fine. Like I mentioned, we do need those kinds of institutions, but the bottom line is you can't scale those institutions. And this country needs to scale aggressively and to reach as many people as we can relative to college education. If the country, and you probably agree with this, if the country continues to have a growing gap between haves and have-nots, we're going to have problems. Our kids, our grandkids are going to have problems. And one of the ways to overcome that is, as you guys know, it's through education. That's one of the key components. Education isn't everything in life, as you all know, but it's pretty important relative to the economic welfare of people. The part here where it says, in assuming fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, and cultural and overall health of the community. I'm going to try my little. So this is an example of this would be, we'll say K through 12 is failing. Maybe we'll say the teachers in the K through 12 system are not doing well. So since ASU produces teachers, ASU is going to need to assume some of the responsibility for the lack of professional teachers that are having an impact. Would you agree? We can't just kick it to other people. We're the ones training the teachers, right? So that would be an example of taking responsibility for things that we're involved with. Another example of relative to the communities it serves. We have our Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. That's a college. They have an initiative called 1 Square Mile in Maryville. And ASU has pledged to help Maryville, that community, they're having a lot of health issues there. They need family support services and safety issues. And so ASU has pledged to try to help as an example of the kind of outreach that we do with a community, that Maryville effort. And there was a philanthropist that donated money to assist in that area. But that in a nutshell is our charter. And the charter, again, I'll probably refer back to it a lot, but we're trying to reach people, students that may not be making it into it. So we take A-B students, not just A students. If a person is qualified to do college work, we want them, and we want them to succeed. This is a picture of, let me see, I've already got that, fast forward to the other way. This is a picture of our charter. The charter that we just talked about, there's a great big honking stone monument across from University Drive that has this charter engraved in rock. So it's right there, and it's about this tall, and we're putting that charter on every campus that we have. The downtown Phoenix campus, the Polytechnic campus, and others. This charter is going to be front and center in a lot of different areas. How are we doing on our PowerPoint? I'll pause just a second. So part of the way that we are advancing is that President Crow came up with a lot of design. Yay, that's the charter. And it's pretty big. It's in rock. You drive by it, you can't miss it. We're putting this up on all campuses. It's kind of a big deal. But these are the areas on how we're going to advance and have been advancing in certain areas. So for example, we want to leverage our place. We're from Arizona. We want to help Arizona. We don't want to pretend we're something else. We do reach out, of course, all across the country and elsewhere, but we are Arizona. We want to transform society, catalyzing social change. We value entrepreneurship. A lot of entrepreneurship-related activities at ASU. It's a key thing for President Crow also. He's very pro-entrepreneurialism. We also want to conduct use-inspired research. So this isn't 100%, but we're more oriented toward research that actually has an impact and is actually addressing the challenges of the day, not just curiosity-driven research. We want, and it's all in the philosophy of trying to do what we can to be relevant and impactful. And then a few others. We want to enable student success. Now this is some of you that have worked at ASU in the past and taught. We've transitioned to more of a student-centric focus. Not as much faculty-focused as we may have been in the past. We are student-centric focus. Student success is what we are driving for. Fusing intellectual disciplines. Just basically, we want to be as interdisciplinary as possible. We have, more than a dozen new colleges that have been reconfigured and pieces moved together where these different disciplines can work together in an interdisciplinary way to take on the challenges and the problems that our society faces today. One of the problems that higher ed faces, now higher ed is coming around more and more all the time, but the stovepipe colleges of the past have not lent themselves very well to a lot of the major challenges that the country faces because most of the solutions are interdisciplinary in nature. And so we're trying to train our students in a more interdisciplinary way. We want to be socially embedded, like the community project I mentioned, and we also want to engage globally. And we are. We are doing a lot across the world, and I'll touch on some of the examples of that. This is the book that I handed out, and I don't know where it ended up at. Autographed by President Crow. Okay, this book was written by President Crow and William DeBars, and it lays out the reasonings and objectives and the pathway to creating what President Crow would say is a new American university. And so here are some quotes about that book, and I'll read them even though maybe you could read them. Former President Bill Clinton said this: over the past 12 years, this book came out in 2015. Over the past 12 years, Michael Crow has transformed ASU into one of America's proudest research universities. Now he and his colleague William DeBars share this model of success and the efforts of the university to bring it to scale, to make it big, to share it with more and more people, presenting untapped opportunities to boost our economic and global competitiveness and to further invest in our next generation of leaders. That was former President Bill Clinton. Jeb Bush, former governor of Florida and former presidential candidate. Designing the new American university presents a fascinating look at the challenges and opportunities facing our nation's higher education community. Michael Crow is one of the leading college presidents precisely because he understands we must innovate if we want to continue to lead in today's global knowledge economy, while at the same time expanding access and affordability to ensure more students have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. This book is an important and insightful read. And there are a bunch of other quotes in this, but that's former President Bill Clinton and Jeb Bush, of course, of the Bush family. So a little bit about, a little update on where we're at. Fall 2019, we have on our campus now, there's better put my glasses on here. 63,324 campus and centers undergrads. We have online education is really taken off, and ASU is is one of the leaders in this. It's making a big impact. We have 33,347 online students for a total undergrad of 96,000 students. Graduate students about 12,400, online graduate students 10,800, total 23,000. For total students now at ASU, almost 120,000 students at Arizona State. Here are our primary campuses located around the valley. We have a campus. Up in the Glendale area. We have a campus downtown Phoenix. There's a Polytechnic campus out in Mesa, and of course the Tempe campus. So we have these four. We also have a campus at Lake Havasu now, which is kind of a unique one and they actually have a little bit of reduction in tuition costs and things because it's kind of up and getting it up and running and where they're at. But in the Tempe campus, for example, we have 52,000 students. The downtown campus about 12,000. Poly has about 6. West Campus has about 5,000, and several hundred out at Lake Havasu. Question. So we're really big, and tuition has gone up some. And are we cost efficient? This is a very interesting slide. This is tuition and state appropriation per degree awarded. Okay, so tuition and state appropriations per degree awarded. What's it cost a university to produce a degree? ASU uses 17% fewer resources per degree awarded than the national median. We're very cost efficient. We're down here in this area. You've got lots of other people that are way more expensive than us, but we're very cost efficient. Another example of this would be, for the last 5 years, ASU has operated with about half the staff per student as its peers. So, for example, for every 100 students, every 100 full-time students, how many employees do we have? ASU has, in FY18, 12.9 employees per 100 students. Penn State has 30.1 employees per 100 students. University of Wisconsin, 28 employees per 100 students. And you can see the line. This is where ASU is at, and here's the median for what people are how many FTEs they have. Very cost effective. In fact, even though we've had these huge increases, our faculty size is about the same. Next question is, are we competitive? How are we doing relative to other universities, relative to what many view as a competitive factor in how much research money are we winning? How much research money, and we frame this, don't get caught up in the details of it, but we frame this as research expenditures. And I'll real briefly touch on this. So an institution like ASU will apply for federal funding of grants. And we'll say we're applying to the National Science Foundation for a $10 million program. Well, the NSF we might win, and if we win, then we'd say we're competitive. And so we get this $10 million, but we don't declare $10 million the year that we want it. We have this as money is spent. So that's why we refer to expenditures instead of what our research total is. It's how much money are we expending each year. I mean, take a look at this. I mean, our research expenditures back in 2000, when I came to ASU, was a little over $100 million per year of research expenditures, the bulk of which comes from the federal government, but also corporations, some state money, and various other entities. But look at the trend line of what ASU has done. I mean, back in 2018, we're talking about $618 million annually of expenditures in research. huge increase since 2000. And in fact, as it's noted there, we've been doubling it about every 6 to 8 years. And I think, don't hold me to this, but I think that is the most progressive upswing of any university in the country. I'll say any public university in the country. We're doing a lot of good stuff. And all of this is going back to President Crow's philosophy that we need to be more engaged, we want relevant research, and we seem to be making very good progress on this front. So what do others think? And I got to tell you, within Arizona, we don't necessarily get as much press as you would think we might relative to the significant advances we're making. It's a little bit of a frustration level for some of us anyway, because we nationally we're recognized as doing really neat things in Arizona and how we are advancing. We have, and I work on the scheduling team also for President Crow, so there's a bunch of us that get together, and he has invitations to speak all over the world to talk about the progress and what ASU is doing differently. How are you guys succeeding in all these different areas? And I'll get into some more details of where the success has been at. But it's just, I mean, booking him is like months and months and months and months and months out. I mean, you're looking at. We have visitors. This last week we had probably 4 different major presidents from around the world coming to ASU to take a tour, to visit with our people, to see the kinds of things that we have underway. So we know that what we're doing is being recognized, but I'm not sure if you'd really get a good feel from that from our local press. But here's just some examples, you guys, of what the recognition and that we have been securing. You know, number one in the U.S. for innovation. You have probably heard, ASU is number one in innovation. Has everybody heard that? And we have it on. The students are getting tired of hearing it, to tell you the truth. And we have it on the buses, they go by. We're number one in the United States as the most innovative university in the country. And so we won that, and the first year we won it was 2016. Well, we won it again in 2017, and we won it again in 2018, and we won it again in 2019, and they just announced just a few days ago that we won it again for 2020. This award has only been given for 5 years, and we have won it all 5 years as the most innovative university in the United States. I don't know. And that's comparing 1,500 universities. Just a couple other things. Oops. Biggest bang for the buck is one. We're a top producer of Fulbright scholars. All of these things. There's just, couldn't help myself. Got to do some more. We are number one. We are the number one choice of international students to come to a public university in the United States. The number one choice. We have roughly 13,000 international students at ASU. There are some private universities that have more than that, but as far as a public university, that's really big. We are one of the top veteran schools in the United States. We have the Tillman Center. We have a lot of effort going in to assist veterans. President Crow is very pro-service related activities, and we do a lot with our veterans. Another one, this isn't even listed up there, but this just came out the other day. It said ASU, the Tempe campus, is ranked 4th in the country for freshman year experience. So, and I don't know how they come up with this data. I think they have this mass mailing of freshmen, but supposedly we are the 4th in the country, if you're a freshman, to have a positive experience your freshman year at a university, and we were 4th. Last one. Top 5 campus in sustainability. We have solar panels on almost every building on all these campuses. We're generating a lot. our carbon reduction is huge. We've made a lot of great strides in becoming as carbon neutral as we possibly can. One that doesn't surprise me at all, Time Magazine had President Crow as one of the top university presidents in the country. They didn't rank them, but he was in the top 5, I think is how they framed it all. Anyway. Okay, now, earlier I mentioned that we were very student-centric, and this gets pounded into administrative staff, all our deans. Every time we all get together, it's very student-focused. What are we doing in our efforts to retain students? What are we doing to stop kids from dropping out? Are there things that we could be doing differently? Not sacrificing quality, but what are we doing? Back when I went to school, they had weed out classes. Remember weed out classes? You take an engineering school, and they had some guy that would be just unbelievably difficult, and he'd weed them out, and he'd congratulate himself because like 70% of the students didn't make it through his weed out class, and that's good. That would be the antithesis of what we tried to do. We want to find out, how do we help these students learn and make it? Because students don't all learn the same way. And this is where technology, for example, is playing a big role at ASU. So we can start individualize the learning, so to help these students find a way to be able to understand the information and content that they need to continue to advance. We don't want them to drop out. Our purpose is not to eliminate them. On the student focus side, this just kind of blows me away. At ASU, we have over 1,177 student organizations that they can plug into. Over 1,000 organizations. So and they're all broken down by, there's academic organizations, there's cultural, ethnic, health, all kinds. And one that maybe doesn't get talked about very much is like the religious, faith, spiritual related organizations. I have an interest in this. It's important to my family. All my kids have been associated with different organizations, so I'm familiar with what we have. But if you're a family or if you're a student and you have an interest in faith-related organizations, usually your public universities don't make a big deal about that. It's not something that they talk about all that much. But at ASU, the idea, again, is to embrace students as a whole. And if our students have an interest in faith-related activities, ASU is going to embrace it and do what we can to accommodate. These are some quotes from President Crow over the years. This top one, it's our job is to be teachers and mentors, and we should be engaged in discussing the existence of God and other matters as complex as that. The one on the bottom, the total person is a person that has to advance intellectually, spiritually, and physically. He said that in an interview back in 2011. And so just to kind of give you a feel for what this looks like at ASU, if you're interested in faith-related or if you have grandkids or kids that have been, we have 55 different faith-related organizations at ASU, all across the gamut. All of these. So if you have a student and they're thinking they're going to get lost and what's going to happen, I think we got your back at ASU relative to faith-related activities. As an example, and that's just one of all of those. And if you totaled them all up, again, you'd have over 1,100 different places these our students can plug into. ASU degrees. So we have 350 undergraduate majors. There are 450 graduate degrees and certificate programs, and 200 degrees are now 100% online. 200 degrees you can get online. Just a fun fact on our engineering school. Back in 2009, we had 6,400 students in engineering. 6,400. 2009, not very long ago. Right now we have 22,400 students in engineering. The number of STEM degrees at ASU, STEM is, everybody talks about STEM. it's science, technology, engineering, math, which they're very, very important. They're not, everything I would argue, but they're very, very important degrees for our country. They have gone up 55% since 2013. 55% increase in our STEM-related degrees. One of our aspirations was to be engaging globally and nationally. And so let me touch on this. I guess I might have to speed this up because I'm maybe going. So here are some examples. Again, this is the tip of the iceberg relative to examples of what ASU is engaged in nationally and globally. And I've got a bunch of organizations that we belong to. Okay, for time's sake, I'm just going to touch on a couple of these. This first one, University Innovation Alliance. President Crow created this University Innovation Alliance. It's a group of university presidents and others that get together and they discuss challenges that each one of their individual institutions are facing, and they share ideas on how to address them. So these institutions are you'd be surprised at how these institutions don't really talk as much as you think they would. But this group gets together, they share ideas, they're transparent about their problems and their issues, and they try to seek solutions to them, and we've had success with this as well. The University Innovation Alliance is made up of institutions like Oregon State, UC Riverside, UT Austin, University of Kansas, Iowa State, Purdue, Michigan State, Ohio State, Georgia State. Georgia State does some pretty innovative things, surprising. And the State University of Central Florida. That's the group of University Innovation Alliances. And I'm going to touch on one more because it's kind of unique. This is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We don't belong to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but we do belong to a group within the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and that's called the U.S.-Israel Business Initiative, a group within the U.S. Chamber. ASU belongs to it. Very unique. I don't think there are any other universities that belong to this group. And the whole idea of this particular group is that we are constantly looking for ways of engaging people in the Middle East, Palestinians or whatever. This one is engaging with Israel in areas of collaboration. And we also have, for example, we have a memorandum of understanding with Ben Gurion University in Israel. So we're looking for ways of interacting with them. We have a shared employee that works at BGU, Ben Gurion University, and ASU for the sole purpose of looking at how can our institutions collaborate and work more closely together. And these are all other very cool organizations that I won't touch on because of time. But I do want to hit on this one because this has also been in the news a little bit, and it's a lot of fun. So we have an office in D.C. We used to have several different office areas in Washington, but we consolidated into one location, and this location is called the Barrett and O'Connor Center in D.C. Okay, this is 32,000 square feet, 8 stories tall. It's a couple of blocks from the White House on 18th and I. It gives us a presence in Washington, D.C. and the East Coast, kind of a jumping off point for the whole East Coast, as well as Europe. And as you all know, most of the world comes to D.C. So if we're interacting with people, it's a good meeting place for ASU to get to. And named after Sandra Day O'Connor, as you all are familiar, Supreme Court Justice, and also named after Barbara Barrett. And maybe you're not quite as familiar with Barbara Barrett, but I'm going to walk through a little bit about Barbara Barrett because she is, well, she got her BA from ASU, her master's, and her law degree from ASU. So I'm going to talk about it for a minute. Okay, she was the ambassador to Finland for President George Bush. Our ASU Honors College is named after Barbara and her husband, Craig. Did you know that ASU's Honors College has more students in it than Stanford does undergrads? And in our Honors College people, if you're looking at something similar, incredible honors school, top 5 in the country, embedded within ASU. Barbara Barrett, first civilian woman to land an F-18 Hornet on an aircraft carrier. She was trained to be an astronaut in Russia and in Kazakhstan, and she was the backup astronaut for one of the trips to the International Space Station. She didn't go, but she was a backup, ready to go. She was the first female Republican to run for governor. She and her husband also own a resort in Montana, which twice has been awarded the top resort in the world. And of course, now she's retired and taking it easy. No, she's now queued up to be the Secretary of the Air Force. Amazing, amazing woman. Anyway, that's our DC center, named after Barbara and Sandra Day O'Connor. Okay, Arizona. And this, you intuitively know this, but adults with college degrees earn more money. And you can look, here's the advanced degrees. This bottom line is by year, and this axis here is a salary. So this is money being made. In 2016, you have an advanced degree, you're going to make up here, and that number is what? About a little less than 100,000. And proportionally, so here's bachelor's degree people, some college, some associate, and high school, and less than high school. So we all know this, right? I mean, it's nothing new. You go to college, you're probably going to end up making more money. Did you know that nationwide, of the students that start college, 50% drop out. 50% do not make it. So we hear in the news, there's a lot of concern and gnashing of teeth relative to debt. And that's an issue, not so much in public university, but that's an issue. A lot of debt being carried. We have a bigger issue of graduating, of retaining students. There are 50% of all these students, and I'm picturing, you got a student takes out debt to go to school, drops out. So not only does he not have a degree now, he also has all the debt he had. That's a huge issue. And so we are more and more oriented toward lifelong learning, trying to get these students back in the classroom, get them back on track, and try to have them advance. Arizona does not do very well. This is educational attainment in Arizona is lower than in most states. This is working age population by education attainment, and we're down on this end. Not a good place to be. So ASU is needed. We're needed to be at scale. We need to become even bigger than we are, and reaching out to as many of these students as we possibly can to try to advance it. I'm going to spend a second on this one too. This is Arizona legs and state post-secondary investment. So this is per $1,000 of income, how much money is going to higher education in each of these states. Okay, we are like, whoa, way down here. So we have like, what is that? Is that like between $2 and $3 per $1,000 of income works its way into higher ed, where these guys are looking at $13. Arizona is lagging way behind relative to the investment into higher education. So do we reflect our charter? We're trying to make progress on the charter, and let's just real quickly take a look at this. This chart is on first generation students at ASU. Total number of students who are first generation for each of these years. Back in 2002, we had a total of 7,500 first generation students at ASU. In 2018, we have 23,000 first generation students. So we back in even early 2000, 2002, we weren't capturing a lot of the, we didn't look like the state. Now we do. The demographics of ASU student body look like the state of Arizona. Back in 2002, it wasn't even close. This one is a very interesting chart, and then I might have to stop after this, but this one captures a lot of what ASU is doing and will be doing moving forward. This is our low-income families able to engage and access college? Are they able to get to ASU? Look at this. Back in, there are 3 years. 2002 is the gray bar, 2009 and 2018. Look at this back in 2002, the gray bar. We had less, we're talking freshman enrollment now, enrollment. Back in 2002, we had maybe 300 students from family income, and this has all been put to 2017 dollars. So it is comparable, apples to apples. So about 300 students made came from families under $20,000 per year. Okay, 300. Okay, now In 2018, we have almost 1,300 freshmen coming in that come from families that are making under $20,000 per year. It's huge, and you can see that has changed all the way along. We are continuing to make sure we're hitting these people, and we're doing a good job on it, and that's where we're headed in the future as well, because we want this state to be successful, and that means this population in this state needs to be educated. And also very telling is people over here, look at this, people that are making, families that are making over $400,000 a year, these guys are coming to ASU as well. These people could probably go anywhere in the world, but they're choosing to come to ASU because the quality at ASU is still there. And I'm really sorry, it's like 10:54, I better pause there. Are we good?
Would you like to take a few questions?
Sure, we can sure.
Hold till we get a microphone to you, please.
Could you tell us the status of the lawsuit by the Attorney General?
No, I'm not, I wouldn't be the best to give you that exact status. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, probably wouldn't be the venue to discuss.
My turn?
Yes.
I'm referring to the chart comparing percentage or number of employees to students.
Yes.
ASU 12, Penn State 30.
Yeah.
Does that include teaching staff or administrative staff or?
I think it's total employees, but that's a good question. I'm not, now that you say that, I'm not sure if that was total or staff. I think it was total, but my confidence level is only at 65%. I do not. I do not. Sorry. You know, I got to tell you, there's so much going on at ASU that, I mean, there's so much construction and things. I would love to have had another hour to tell you how the infrastructure itself is even aggressively going, and what we're doing globally in different countries around the world. There's a lot of rich information about this institution that I'm only able to touch on just a little bit today. So you'll have to forgive me that I'm not prepared on everything.
I just
do
want to
have,
know.
if that's all the questions, I do have one trivia. Oh yes, please.
I just want to know, does the ASU own all of the high rises that you have downtown, or are those owned by individuals? Because you have many, many new buildings down there.
Yeah, you're correct. Not all of those are ASU-owned buildings, correct?
So some of them are privately owned.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Could you make a comment on the countries that you're in? You mentioned possibility. I believe you mentioned Vietnam.
Right. We have a presence in Vietnam. We have a project there with maybe, and I'm making this number up, but it's close. I think we have 12 employees based in Vietnam, working on things like an Intel Corporation project, where we're helping the Vietnamese rethink how they teach and train engineering. So we have that kind of activity going on. I mean, we have, you know, we're working with the Smithsonian Institution, for example, in Panama, on a tropical research center down there, where we have grad students going down there and doing research alongside Smithsonian researchers. You know, we have a school in China. We have, you know, we acquired Thunderbird University, and Thunderbird, excellent university, as you all may be. Barbara Barrett at one point in time was an interim president at Thunderbird. But they have different outposts, you know, around the world, in Russia and other places, that are giving us access to things. We've got people working in trying to do education processing with refugees and refugee camps. You know, we're working with the Palestinians, we're working with Israel. We've got just a lot of activity going on internationally, and I am only touching just a little bit. If I could show you a dot of wherever we are working right now, there's and a lot of universities are doing a lot of international work. So we're not, I'm not saying like we're really unique, but we have been very aggressive in reaching out. And a lot of this is, we have a pretty hefty international student body that I mentioned before, and that's important. Not only because other people get more familiar with the United States and our culture, it's also, it's tuition dollars from lots of different places to make sure the core here in Arizona is kept up to speed. As you know, with the cut in state funding, dramatic cut in state funding on a per pupil basis, one of the biggest cuts in the country has occurred here in Arizona, which caused, and getting back to your question on the lawsuit, I'll touch on it this way. So this causes, when we have cuts like that, there's only two ways to getting additional revenue, and Jerry Snyder would know this really well. You're going to have to raise tuition, or you're going to have to increase things like your research infrastructure, increase philanthropy, or you just have to do whatever you can to be entrepreneurial to generate resources. And if ASU owns land, if we're doing things that can assist the institution, assist the state of Arizona, and continuing this institution to advance, then we should utilize that as best we can. And so I don't know if I'm kind of touching on your lawsuit, but there wasn't tax revenue being generated on that land anyway. But we need to do what we can to be entrepreneurial and nimble in the face of major cuts, and we have. It's not like we slowed down after this stuff happened. It's just we've continued to advance. Yes.
Not that your presentation needs any support anywhere of anything you've said, but I would like to back up support for something you did say, and because you wouldn't expect this from most universities necessarily, but you talked about the spiritual emphasis that's available for students. And soon after President that came to our church, he came for a worship service and to speak. And I'll never forget, one of the things he said was, "We are so glad that we have this United Methodist Church here as a part of the location where it is." So he really does support that. And I don't think he's ever changed his attitude in the last years he's been to the campus.
That would be, I don't want to speak totally for him, but I think you're exactly correct. It's part of the whole student, and we're trying to do what we can to make them successful and to make parents and families and the students themselves comfortable that this is a place where they can fit in. Thank you for the comment.
As a maybe final comment or question, or a goal that I would like to suggest, you're a very innovative organization. We are always, every year, it seems like tuition is going up. Sometime, somewhere, somehow, we've got to stop that and turn it around and bring it down. An innovative goal that you could have is to stop increasing tuition and start bringing it down. Thank you.
I totally agree. I mean, I'm a parent paying tuition, and I have 3 kids. But I got to tell you, we'll do what we can. As I try to point out, we're very cost efficient now. We are not a bloated university. We are nimble, and we are pretty streamlined. And so if what we really would like to see, and we could really love your assistance, would be in attempting to get the state of Arizona to continue to support the institution, because as I mentioned before, there aren't very many places you make up money from. If you get hammered here, tuition is going to have to go up. This is a phenomenon that has occurred all over the country, especially back in the 28, and we have not recovered from that, far from it. In fact, if we could just get state support, for example, in funding half the cost of an in-state tuition from the state, I think we would be thrilled. And that's not an official statement. That's not my area. But I mean, we could use state support and entities like you all who are concerned about higher education, whatever you can do to assist. Of course, we would definitely not discourage you from weighing in on occasion. Good question, though. Tuition is, hopefully we won't see the increases that we have had in the not too distant past.
Thank you, Stuart. We appreciate your coming to talk to us this morning, and I'd like to present you with this certificate. I can't reach much farther than that. I have a shoulder problem
Gotcha.
today. And this poster that was
Very nice.
handsome
Very nice.
guy's picture on there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
And thank you for coming, everyone. We'll see you 2 weeks from today to learn about Dog is Love.
Now that would be a fun presentation. I can't compete with the dogs. Hi. Yes, how you doing? Name is slipping me. Hi. Well, Kathy. My goodness, yeah. I think the last. Oops, sorry. Let me turn this off. Sorry. Last time I. you.